Captain Zephon stared at the sensor readings for the third time that morning and still could not believe what he was seeing. The massive display screen in front of him showed empty space beyond the outer rim of the Vorthak Empire. But the sensors told a different story. Something was coming through the void, and it was big. "Sir, the energy signature is getting stronger," reported Lieutenant Vex, her scaled hands dancing across the control panel. "Whatever it is, it will reach our detection grid in approximately 6 hours." Zephon walked closer to the main viewer and squinted his 4 eyes at the data scrolling past. In his 40 years of service to the Empire, he had never seen readings like these. The ship approaching them was producing energy levels that should not be possible. Their computers kept throwing error messages because the numbers were beyond anything in their databases. "Run a full spectrum analysis again," Zephon ordered, "and this time include the classified military frequencies." The monitoring station Nexus 7 had been his command for 8 years now. It was a boring assignment on the edge of known space, watching for pirates or smugglers trying to escape Imperial justice. Most days, nothing happened at all. The most exciting thing they usually detected was space debris or the occasional comet. But today was different. Today, something impossible was heading straight toward them. Lieutenant Vex looked up from her console with worry in her large purple eyes. "Sir, the analysis is complete, and the results make no sense. The ship appears to be using a propulsion system we have never encountered before. It is not fusion, not antimatter, not even dark energy manipulation." "That cannot be right," Zephon muttered. "The Empire has cataloged every known technology in the galaxy. We have absorbed or conquered every species for 3,000 years. There are no unknown civilizations left. Sir, there is more." Vex hesitated. "The ship's hull composition is also unusual. Our scanners show materials that do not match any element on the periodic table. Some of the readings suggest the hull might be shifting between different molecular states." Zephon felt his blood run cold. In all his years of service, he had learned to trust Imperial technology and Imperial knowledge. The Empire's scientists had mapped every star system, cataloged every species, and documented every known technology. If something existed in the galaxy, the Empire knew about it. "Contact Grand Admiral Thyrix immediately," he commanded. "Use the emergency channel. Tell him we have a situation that requires immediate attention." As Lieutenant Vex began transmitting the report, Zephon continued studying the mysterious vessel. The ship was still too far away for visual confirmation, but the sensor data painted a picture that made him increasingly nervous. The vessel was approximately 2 kilometers long, which made it larger than most Imperial battleships. Its energy output suggested it could power a small planet, yet it was moving through space with impossible grace and speed. The communication panel crackled to life, and Grand Admiral Thyrix's stern voice filled the control room. "Captain Zephon, I have received your report. Are you certain these readings are accurate?" "Yes, sir. We have run multiple diagnostics on all our equipment. Everything is functioning normally. The readings are real." There was a long pause before Thyrix responded. "I am mobilizing Battle Group 7 to your position. They will arrive in 18 hours. Until then, you are to maintain passive observation only. Do not attempt to make contact with the unknown vessel. Do not take any action that could be interpreted as hostile or threatening." "Understood, sir." "One more thing, Captain. This information is now classified at the highest levels. No one outside your immediate crew is to know about this situation until further notice." The communication ended, leaving Zephon alone with his thoughts and his increasingly worried crew. He had served in 3 major Imperial campaigns and had seen the Empire's military might crush entire civilizations. But something about this unknown ship made him feel afraid in a way he had never experienced before. Hours passed slowly as they continued monitoring the approaching vessel. With each passing minute, the sensor readings became more detailed and more confusing. The ship seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Sometimes their scanners showed it in one location, and sometimes it appeared to be in several places at once. "Sir, I am detecting life signs aboard the vessel," Lieutenant Vex announced suddenly, "but the biological signatures do not match any known species in our database." Zephon rushed to her console and studied the readouts himself. The life forms aboard the unknown ship were unlike anything he had ever seen. Their brain patterns were incredibly complex, far more so than even the most intelligent species the Empire had encountered. Their physical structures suggested bipedal forms, but with biological efficiency rates that seemed impossibly high. "How many life forms are you detecting?" he asked. "Approximately 300, sir. But the readings keep fluctuating. Sometimes it appears there are more, sometimes fewer. It is as if some of them exist in a state between life and something else." The mystery deepened with every scan they performed. Zephon found himself pacing back and forth across the control room, his mind racing with possibilities. Could this be a remnant of some ancient civilization that had somehow remained hidden? Could it be explorers from another galaxy entirely? Or worse, could it be something that the Empire's greatest fears had always warned about? As the hours continued to pass, more details emerged about the mysterious vessel. Its hull appeared to be self-repairing, automatically fixing minor damage from space debris and cosmic radiation. The ship's systems operated on principles that Imperial science declared impossible, yet there it was, functioning perfectly. "Sir, the vessel has changed course," Vex reported suddenly. "It is now heading directly toward our station." Zephon felt his heart skip a beat. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. The ship has altered its trajectory and is now on a direct intercept course with Nexus 7. At its current speed, it will arrive in approximately 4 hours. The implications hit Zephon immediately. If the unknown vessel was deliberately approaching their monitoring station, it meant they had been detected. Despite all of Imperial technology and stealth capabilities, something aboard that ship had found them and was coming to investigate. "Raise our defensive shields and power up all weapon systems," Zephon ordered, "and send another priority message to Grand Admiral Thyrix. Tell him the situation has escalated." As his crew scrambled to follow his orders, Zephon stared at the approaching ship on their long-range sensors. The vessel moved through space with fluid grace, its hull seeming to ripple and shift like liquid metal. Energy patterns danced across its surface in ways that hurt to look at directly. For the first time in his career, Captain Zephon wondered if the Empire had finally encountered something it could not understand, conquer, or control. The thought terrified him more than he cared to admit. Deep in space aboard the mysterious vessel, Admiral Kyungmin Lee stood on the bridge of the Taguk and smiled slightly as he watched the Imperial monitoring station power up its defensive systems. After 2 years of careful observation, the time had finally come to make contact with the galactic civilization that called itself the Vorthak Empire. "Commander Park, are all systems ready?" he asked his second-in-command. "Yes, sir. All departments. Report ready for contact protocol. Dr. Choi has finished her analysis of their communication systems, and Lieutenant Kim has prepared the translation matrices." Lee nodded thoughtfully. The decision to reveal humanity's presence had not been made lightly. For decades, human ships had watched from the shadows as the Empire expanded across the galaxy, conquering and absorbing every civilization it encountered. But now the Empire's expansion had brought them close to Earth's outer colonies, and the time for hiding was over. "Very well. Take us to standard approach distance and prepare for first contact." Grand Admiral Thyrix stood in the command center of his flagship, the Eternal Conquest, and watched as 3 complete battle groups moved into position around the unknown vessel. 237 Imperial warships now surrounded the mysterious ship, their weapons powered and ready. It was the largest show of force the Empire had assembled in over 50 years. Yet despite overwhelming numerical superiority, Thyrix felt uneasy. The unknown vessel sat motionless in space, apparently unconcerned by the massive Imperial fleet surrounding it. Its hull continued to shift and change colors and patterns that made his eyes water when he looked directly at it. "Emperor Vex Thul wishes to speak with you, sir," announced his communications officer. Thyrix straightened his uniform and activated the holographic communicator. The imposing figure of Emperor Vexthul materialized before him, his golden scales gleaming and his 6 arms crossed in a gesture of authority. "Grand Admiral, what is the current status of this situation?" The Emperor demanded. "Your Imperial Majesty, we have the unknown vessel completely surrounded. Our weapons are locked onto their ship and we are ready to destroy it on your command." However, I must report that our tactical analysis is troubling. The Emperor's red eyes narrowed. Explain. Sire, our most advanced scanners cannot penetrate their hull completely. We do not know the full extent of their defensive capabilities or weapon systems. Additionally, their technology appears to operate on principles unknown to Imperial science. Emperor Vexthul was silent for several moments before responding. In 3,000 years, the Empire has never encountered a civilization we could not understand and conquer. This situation is unacceptable. You will demand their immediate surrender. If they refuse, you will destroy them. Yes, Your Imperial Majesty. The communication ended, leaving Therix to face the most challenging moment of his career. He turned to his communications officer and nodded. Open a channel to the unknown vessel. Broadcast on all frequencies. Across the Imperial fleet, hundreds of ships trained their sensors on the mysterious vessel as Therix began the standard Imperial First Contact Protocol. It was a protocol that had worked successfully for centuries, breaking the will of countless civilizations before the first shot was ever fired. Unknown vessel, you are surrounded by the Imperial Navy of the Vorthak Empire. You have entered restricted Imperial space without authorization. You will immediately power down all systems and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your complete destruction. You have 1 standard hour to comply. The transmission ended, and the Imperial fleet waited for a response. Minutes passed in tense silence as officers throughout the fleet watched their sensor displays for any sign of movement or activity from the unknown ship. Inside the Taeguk, Lieutenant Dongwoo Kim listened to the Imperial demands and turned to Admiral Lee with amusement in his eyes. Sir, they want us to surrender and prepare to be boarded. They have given us 1 hour to comply. Admiral Lee smiled and walked to the main viewing screen, where he could see the massive Imperial fleet surrounding his ship. Commander Hyejin Park joined him, studying the tactical display with professional interest. Their formation is quite impressive, she observed. Very traditional but effective for intimidating most civilizations. They have positioned their heavy battleships to create overlapping fields of fire, while keeping their lighter vessels ready to pursue any attempt at escape. It is exactly what our simulations predicted they would do, Lee agreed. Dr. Choi, what is your assessment of their communication technology? Dr. Mi Young Choi looked up from her analysis console with a slight frown. Admiral, their systems are surprisingly primitive. They are using basic electromagnetic broadcasts with simple encryption. Their translation protocols appear to be quite advanced, though. They have managed to create a universal communication standard that works with hundreds of different species. Lee nodded thoughtfully. The Empire's ability to communicate with so many different civilizations was impressive, even if their technology was outdated by human standards. It spoke to their organizational skills and their experience in dealing with first contact situations. Lieutenant Kim, prepare a response. Use their own communication protocols, but encode it with our standard diplomatic identification codes. Let them know we are willing to talk. Kim's fingers moved quickly across his console as he prepared the transmission. The message was simple and direct, transmitted in perfect Vorthak language that had taken human linguists decades to master through careful observation of Imperial communications. Imperial fleet, we are humans from the vessel Taeguk. We have been observing your empire for some time and believe it is time for our peoples to meet. We are willing to discuss the current situation, but we will not surrender our vessel or allow boarding by hostile forces. We suggest a more diplomatic approach. To this encounter, the transmission reached the Imperial flagship within seconds, and Grand Admiral Thyrex found himself staring at the message with growing confusion and alarm. The unknown aliens not only spoke perfect Vorthak, but they claimed to have been observing the Empire without being detected. How is that possible? Demanded Captain Corvex Thyrex's tactical officer. Our sensor networks cover every inhabited system in the galaxy. No civilization could have observed us without our knowledge. Thyrex studied the message again, noting the sophisticated diplomatic language and the calm tone. These humans were not behaving like any species the Empire had encountered before. Most civilizations either surrendered immediately when faced with Imperial might or responded with desperate threats and bluster. Sir, Incoming transmission from the Emperor, announced the communications officer. Emperor Vexthul's hologram appeared again, his expression dark with anger. Grand Admiral, I have been monitoring your communications. These aliens claim to have been spying on the Empire. This is an act of war. You will destroy them immediately. Your Imperial Majesty, with respect, I believe we should consider their offer to talk. They have demonstrated advanced technology and detailed knowledge of our language and customs. Destroying them without learning more could be a significant strategic error. The Emperor's 6 arms trembled with rage. Are you questioning my orders, Grand Admiral? No, sire. I am simply suggesting that we gather more intelligence before taking irreversible action. If these humans have truly been observing us without detection, we need to understand how they accomplish this and whether they represent a larger threat. After a long pause, the Emperor spoke again. Very well. You may attempt to gather intelligence from them, but if they show any sign of hostile intent or if they refuse to provide satisfactory answers, you will destroy them without further consultation. As the Emperor's hologram faded, Thyrix turned back to the tactical display showing the human vessel. The ship continued to sit calmly in the center of the Imperial formation, apparently untroubled by the overwhelming firepower aimed at it. Open another channel to the human vessel, Thyrix ordered. Let us see what these mysterious humans have to say. The response came quickly, and Thyrix found himself speaking directly with someone who identified himself as Admiral Kyungmin Lee. The human's voice was calm and confident, with no trace of fear or concern despite being outnumbered over 200 to 1. Grand Admiral Thyrix, we appreciate your willingness to communicate rather than simply opening fire. We understand this situation must be confusing for your empire, as you believed you had cataloged all civilizations in the galaxy. Indeed, Admiral Lee, your claims of long-term observation are particularly troubling. How could an entire civilization remain hidden from Imperial sensors and intelligence networks? Lee's response sent chills through every Imperial officer listening to the conversation. Grand Admiral, what makes you think we are an entire civilization? The Taguk is just one ship. But to answer your question, we remained hidden because we chose to remain hidden. Your technology, while impressive by galactic standards, is not as advanced as you believe. The implications of that statement hit Thyrix like a physical blow. If the humans could hide one ship so completely, how many others might there be? And if their technology was truly superior to Imperial science, what did that mean for the Empire's 3,000-year dominance? Admiral Lee, you say you have been observing us. What exactly have you learned? We have learned a great deal about your expansion patterns, your military capabilities, and your treatment of conquered species. We have also learned that your empire is approaching the boundaries of human space, which is why we decided the time had come for direct contact. The conversation continued for another hour, with Admiral Lee providing careful answers that revealed little while making it clear that the humans possessed a knowledge and capabilities far beyond what should have been possible. By the end of the exchange, Grand Admiral Thyrix realized that everything he thought he knew about the galaxy might be wrong. Emperor Vexthul stood in his private war room deep within the Imperial Palace, surrounded by holographic displays showing the standoff at the edge of known space. For 3 hours he had listened to the communications between his fleet and the mysterious humans, and with each exchange his anger had grown. They mock us, he declared to his assembled advisors. These unknown aliens speak to us as if they are our equals, as if their single ship could challenge the might of the entire Imperial Navy. High Counselor Zermuth, the Empire's chief scientist and military advisor, studied the sensor data with growing concern. Your Imperial Majesty, while their attitude is certainly arrogant, we must consider the possibility that their confidence is based on genuine capability rather than foolishness. Impossible, snapped General Krikstal, the Empire's most decorated military commander. One ship cannot stand against 200. No matter how advanced their technology might be, they are still bound by the basic laws of physics and warfare. Emperor Vexthul turned to face the holographic image of Grand Admiral Thyrix. Admiral, I have made my decision. These humans claim superior technology and speak of watching our empire as if we are children playing with toys. I want them to prove their capabilities. Issue them a challenge. What sort of challenge, Your Imperial Majesty? Tell them to demonstrate their power. If they are truly as advanced as they claim, they should be able to show us something we have never seen before. Give them 1 hour to impress us, or we will consider their claims to be lies and respond accordingly. Across the vast distance of space, Admiral Lee received the Imperial challenge with calm interest. He stood on the bridge of the Teguk with his senior officers, discussing how best to respond to what was clearly a test of human capabilities. They want us to prove ourselves, observed Commander Park. The Emperor is hoping we will either reveal our limitations or demonstrate something he can counter with sufficient force. Chief Engineer Taehyun Kang looked up from his technical displays with a slight smile. Admiral, we could show them something simple but impressive. Perhaps a basic gravity manipulation demonstration? What do you have in mind? Lee asked. Kang gestured to the tactical display showing the nearby asteroid field. There are several large asteroids within range of our gravitational systems. We could move them into a specific pattern without using any visible energy beams or projectiles. It would demonstrate our technology while avoiding anything that could be interpreted as directly threatening. Dr. Choi nodded in agreement. It would also give them something to study and analyze, which might keep them occupied while we decide our next move. Lee considered the suggestion carefully. The goal was to establish human technological superiority without triggering a panicked military response from the Empire. A demonstration had to be impressive enough to command respect, but not so overwhelming that it would provoke desperation. Curry, well, proceed with the gravity demonstration, but prepare something more dramatic as well, just in case they are not sufficiently impressed. Yes, sir. Commander Song, please report to the launch bay. We may need the Hanbok for a secondary demonstration. 20 minutes later, Admiral Lee transmitted his response to the Imperial fleet. Grand Admiral Thyrix, we accept your Emperor's challenge. We will demonstrate our capabilities using the asteroid field approximately 50,000 kilometers from your current position. Please observe carefully. Throughout the Imperial fleet, officers trained their most advanced sensors on the designated asteroid field. 3 large asteroids drifted slowly through space, each one approximately 5 kilometers in diameter. The rock showed no unusual properties and appeared completely normal by all Imperial measurements. Then something impossible began to happen. The 3 asteroids suddenly began to accelerate, moving with smooth precision toward each other. Imperial. Sensors detected no energy beams, no tractor rays, and no propulsion systems of any kind. The massive rock simply began moving as if guided by an invisible hand. Sir, this is impossible, reported the sensor operator aboard Thyrix's flagship. The asteroids are accelerating at rates that should tear them apart, but their structural integrity remains perfect. We cannot detect any external force acting upon them. Thyrix watched in growing amazement as the 3 asteroids moved into a complex orbital pattern around each other. The dance continued for several minutes, with the massive rock spinning and weaving through space in ways that defied every law of physics he understood. Then, the real demonstration began. The asteroids suddenly stopped their orbital dance and began to reshape themselves. Tons of rock and metal flowed like liquid, reforming into geometric patterns that spelled out words in perfect Vorthak script. The message they formed was visible from hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, and read simply, "Greetings from humanity." But the demonstration was not finished. Commander Ji Woo Song launched her fighter craft from the Teguk and began what appeared to be a simple reconnaissance flight toward the Imperial fleet. The small ship was sleek and elegant, approximately 50 meters long, with hull markings that seemed to shift and change as it moved. Imperial targeting systems immediately locked onto the approaching fighter, but within seconds their computers began registering error messages. The fighter appeared to be in multiple locations simultaneously. Sometimes sensors showed it approaching from the left, sometimes from the right, and sometimes from directly ahead. "Target the fighter," ordered General Kriegstall from his command ship. "Show these humans what Imperial firepower can accomplish." 12 Imperial vessels opened fire with their most advanced weapon systems. Energy beams and projectile rounds, filled the space around the human fighter with destructive force that could have vaporized a small moon. Every shot missed. The fighter continued its approach, seemingly unaware that it was under attack. It flew through the Imperial formation with impossible grace, passing between ships with meters to spare. Several times it appeared to fly directly through solid Imperial vessels, emerging on the other side completely undamaged. "This is impossible," whispered Captain Korvax as he watched the fighter perform maneuvers that violated every known law of physics. "Our sensors show it occupying multiple positions simultaneously. It is as if the ship exists in several dimensions at once." The demonstration reached its climax when the fighter suddenly stopped in the exact center of the Imperial formation, surrounded by over 200 hostile vessels. For a moment it hung motionless in space, and every Imperial sensor in the fleet focused on it completely. Then it simply vanished. One second the fighter was there, and the next second it was gone. No energy discharge, no explosion, no sign of movement. It disappeared as if it had never existed at all. "Where did it go?" demanded Thyrix. "Find that ship immediately." His sensor operators worked frantically to locate the missing fighter, but their searches found nothing. The small craft had disappeared so completely that it might have been imaginary. Then Lieutenant Kim's voice came over the communication channel from the Teguk, calm and professional as always. "Grand Admiral Thyrix, Commander Song has returned to our ship. We hope this demonstration has been sufficient to establish our technological capabilities." The Imperial fleet sensors immediately confirmed that the fighter was indeed back aboard the human vessel, but none of them had detected its return journey. The craft had somehow traveled from the center of their formation back to its mothership without being observed by any of their instruments. Aboard his flagship, Grand Admiral Thyrix stared at the human vessel with new understanding and growing fear. The demonstration had shown capabilities that were beyond anything in Imperial experience. The humans had manipulated gravity without visible technology, reshaped matter at the atomic level, and demonstrated transportation methods that appeared to ignore the basic laws of space and time. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Emperor," announced his communications officer, his voice shaking slightly. Emperor Vexthul's hologram appeared, and for the first time in Thyrix's memory, the ruler of the galaxy looked genuinely uncertain. "Grand Admiral, I observed the entire demonstration. Our scientists are analyzing the data, but their preliminary reports are disturbing. How is such technology possible?" "I do not know, Your Imperial Majesty. The humans have demonstrated capabilities that our science declares impossible, yet we have witnessed them with our own eyes." "What is your military assessment of the situation?" Thyrix hesitated before answering. "Sire, if this single human vessel can manipulate gravity, reshape matter, and transport objects through space instantaneously, we must assume their weapon systems operate on similar principles. A direct military confrontation could result in the complete destruction of our fleet." The Emperor was silent for a long time before responding. "Contact the humans again. Tell them their demonstration has been adequate. Ask them what they want from the Empire." As the communication ended, Thyrix realized that the galaxy had changed forever. For 3,000 years, the Vorthak Empire had been the supreme power in known space, but now they faced beings whose technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. The age of Imperial dominance was over, and none of them yet understood what would replace it. Emperor Vexthul paced across his throne room like a caged predator, his 6 arms gesturing angrily as he spoke to his assembled council. The holographic reports from the fleet hung in the air around them, showing impossible sensor readings and technical analysis that made no sense according to Imperial science. "They humiliated us," he declared. "One ship made our entire fleet look like primitive savages throwing rocks at the stars. 3,000 years of Imperial dominance, and these humans make us appear weak and foolish." High Counselor Zermoth stepped forward cautiously. "Your Imperial Majesty, perhaps we should consider their offer to talk. They have demonstrated superior technology, but they have not acted with hostility. They could have destroyed our fleet during their demonstration, but they chose restraint instead." "Restraint?" The Emperor's voice rose to a roar. They showed us their power to make it clear we cannot resist them. That is not restraint. That is the behavior of a conqueror who prefers submission to destruction. General Krikstal studied the tactical reports with growing unease. Sire, I must agree with the High Counselor. If the humans intended conquest, they would have attacked during their demonstration when our weapons proved ineffective. Instead, they returned to passive position and requested dialogue. Emperor Vexthul stopped pacing and turned to face the holographic image of Grand Admiral Thyrix. Admiral, the humans have requested face-to-face negotiations. What is your assessment of this proposal? Your Imperial Majesty, I believe we have little choice but to accept. Our fleet is effectively helpless against their technology, and they have shown no direct aggressive intent. Meeting with them may be our only opportunity to understand what they want and whether peaceful coexistence is possible. The Emperor considered this for several minutes before making his decision. Very well. You will select a small delegation to meet with the humans aboard their vessel, but I want our best scientists included in the group. We need to learn everything possible about their technology and capabilities. 2 hours later, a small Imperial shuttle approached the human vessel Teguk. Aboard the shuttle were Grand Admiral Thyrix, High Counselor Zermoth, and 3 of the Empire's most brilliant scientists. They had volunteered for what many considered a dangerous mission, knowing that the humans could easily capture or destroy them if they chose to do so. As their shuttle neared the human ship, the Imperial delegation got their first close look at the alien technology. The Teguk's hull appeared to be made of a material that shifted between different states of matter, sometimes looking like metal, sometimes like liquid, and sometimes like something that hurt their eyes to observe directly. Incoming transmission from the human vessel, reported the shuttle pilot. They are requesting permission to bring us aboard using their own transportation system. Thyrix felt his blood chill at the suggestion, but he knew they had little choice. Accept their offer. What happened next defied every expectation the Imperial delegation had formed about transportation technology. Instead of a docking bay or airlock, they found themselves surrounded by a soft blue light that seemed to dissolve the walls of their shuttle. One moment they were in their familiar Imperial craft, and the next moment they were standing in a vast chamber aboard the human ship. The interior of the Teguk was unlike anything they had ever seen. The corridors appeared to stretch infinitely in all directions, with walls that seemed to bend space around them. Rooms were larger than should have been possible given the ship's external dimensions, and some areas appeared to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Admiral Lee greeted them personally, accompanied by his senior staff. The humans appeared, remarkably similar to several species the Empire had encountered, but their technology made them seem almost godlike in comparison to anything in Imperial experience. "Welcome aboard the Teguk," Lee said in perfect Vorthak. "I hope you find your stay informative." Dr. Jae-Sung Lim, the human historian, led the delegation to a conference room that defied the basic laws of architecture. The space was simultaneously intimate and vast, with walls that showed real-time images of distant galaxies and star systems. "Before we begin our discussions, we thought you should understand the true scope of the situation you are facing," Limmy explained. "High Counselor Zermoth, you are considered the Empire's greatest scientist. Perhaps you would be interested in examining some of our basic technology." Zermoth approached the examination station that Lim indicated, his scientific curiosity overcoming his fear. What he saw there challenged everything he thought he knew about the universe. The humans had mastered controlled manipulation of gravity, allowing them to create localized space-time distortions that could transport matter instantaneously across vast distances. Their understanding of dimensional physics was so advanced that they could exist partially in multiple dimensions simultaneously, explaining how their fighter had been able to occupy several positions at once. "This is impossible," Zermoth whispered as he studied the technical readouts. "These energy levels should tear space-time apart. The gravitational stresses alone should collapse into black holes." Chief Engineer Kang smiled patiently. "Those limitations only apply to civilizations that manipulate space-time from within a single dimensional framework. Once you learn to work across multiple dimensions simultaneously, the energy requirements become quite manageable. As the technical demonstrations continued, Ambassador Yunji Yu began explaining the political situation to Grand Admiral Thyrix. Her words sent shockwaves through the Imperial delegation's understanding of galactic civilization. The Vorthak Empire has controlled this galaxy for 3,000 years, but you have never been alone. Humanity has been observing you since our first faster-than-light vessels reached this region of space over 2 millennia ago. Why did you not make contact before now? Thyrix asked. We prefer to study and understand before we act. Your empire has been expanding steadily for centuries, conquering and absorbing every civilization you encounter. We wanted to understand your motivations and methods before deciding how to respond. Dr. Lim activated a holographic display showing the galaxy from a perspective the Imperial delegation had never seen before. Instead of the familiar map showing Imperial territory and conquered worlds, this display revealed hundreds of human outposts and observation stations scattered throughout the galaxy. You have been watching us all this time? Thyrix asked in disbelief. Watching, studying, and occasionally intervening when necessary. Several species that your records show as having mysteriously vanished were actually relocated to safer regions of space. We have been protecting civilizations from Imperial expansion for over 500 years. The revelations continued for hours, each one more shocking than the last. The humans had technology that could manipulate matter at the quantum level, allowing them to create materials with properties that Imperial science declared impossible. They had mastered energy conversion systems that could power entire star systems using resources no larger than a grain of sand. But perhaps the most disturbing revelation came when High Counselor Zermoth asked about human military capabilities. The Teguk is not a warship, explained Commander Park matter-of-factly. It is a diplomatic vessel designed for first-contact situations. Our actual military technology operates on completely different principles. What sort of principles? Zermoth asked, though he was beginning to fear the answer. Our military vessels can manipulate time as well as space. They can attack targets in the past, present, and future simultaneously. They can exist in multiple timelines at once, making them effectively impossible to destroy through conventional means. The Imperial delegation sat in stunned silence as the implications of that statement sank in. They were not just facing superior technology. They were facing beings who had transcended the basic limitations of existence itself. Grand Admiral Thyrix finally found his voice. What do you want from the Empire? Ambassador Yu's response was not what any of them had expected. We want to help you. Your expansion pattern is unsustainable and will eventually lead to resource depletion and social collapse. The Empire has perhaps 200 years before the weight of governing so many diverse civilizations becomes impossible to maintain. You are offering to help us? Thyrix asked in confusion. We are offering to guide your transition to a more sustainable model of galactic civilization. The Empire can maintain its territorial integrity and governmental structure, but must agree to human oversight of expansion activities and treatment of subject species. As the meeting continued, the Imperial delegation began to understand that they were not facing conquerors in the traditional sense. The humans possessed the power to destroy the Empire completely, but they preferred to preserve and improve existing galactic civilization rather than replace it. By the end of the discussions, Grand Admiral Thyrix realized that everything he had believed about humanity's place in the universe was wrong. The Empire was not facing an invasion. They were being offered a chance to evolve beyond their current limitations. The question was whether Emperor Vexthul would be wise enough to accept that offer. Emperor Vexthul stood alone in his private chambers, staring at the holographic report that Grand Admiral Thyrix had delivered upon his return from the human ship. The technical specifications and political proposals contained within the document represented everything he had feared most: the end of Imperial supremacy and the beginning of an age where the Vorthak Empire would no longer be the dominant power in the galaxy. For hours he had studied the human proposals, searching for signs of deception or hidden agendas, but the more he analyzed their offer, the more he realized that these beings possessed such overwhelming technological superiority that deception was unnecessary. They could have simply destroyed the Empire and taken whatever they wanted. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to his chambers. "Enter," he commanded. Princess Lixandra, his youngest daughter and designated heir, walked into the room with the confident grace that had made her popular among the younger generation of Imperial nobility. Unlike her father, she had spent considerable time studying the reports from the human encounter with genuine curiosity rather than wounded pride. "Father, I have reviewed the human proposals with the Science Council and the economic advisors. Their assessment is that everything the humans have told us appears to be accurate." Emperor Vexthul turned to face his daughter, noting the excitement in her eyes that contrasted sharply with his own dark mood. "You sound as if you approve of this situation." "I think it represents an opportunity rather than a defeat," she replied, carefully. "Father, the Empire has been expanding for 3,000 years, but our growth has slowed considerably in the past century. We control so much territory that effective governance is becoming increasingly difficult. The human offer of technological and administrative assistance could solve problems we have been unable to address." "At the cost of our independence," he replied bitterly. "What independence?" Lixandra asked pointedly. "Father, they could have conquered us completely, but instead they offer partnership. They could have destroyed our fleet, but instead they demonstrated restraint. They could rule the galaxy directly, but instead they prefer to work through existing governmental structures." Before the Emperor could respond, his communication system activated with an urgent priority signal. The holographic image of Grand Admiral Thyrix appeared, his expression grave with concern. "Your Imperial Majesty, we have a new development. Long-range sensors have detected additional human vessels approaching our position." Emperor Vexthul felt his heart skip a beat. "How many vessels?" 12 ships, sire, and unlike the Teguk, these appear to be military in design. Our sensors can barely track them, and their mere presence is causing gravitational anomalies throughout the star system." The Emperor closed his eyes and realized that the time for indecision had passed. The humans had been patient with their initial diplomatic approach, but they were clearly prepared to use more direct methods if necessary. "Admiral, request immediate communication with the human commander. Tell them I wish to speak with their leader personally." Within minutes, Fleet Admiral In-Ho Shin appeared as a holographic projection in the Emperor's chambers. The human officer looked tired but determined, as if he had been hoping to avoid this moment but was prepared to do what was necessary. "Your Imperial Majesty, I am Fleet Admiral Shin of the Human Expeditionary Force. I understand you have been considering our proposals for closer cooperation between our civilizations." "Your proposals," the Emperor replied with barely controlled anger. "You mean your demands for surrender disguised as offers of assistance?" Admiral Shin's expression remained patient, but firm. "Emperor Vexthul, we have no desire to rule your empire directly. We have observed your civilization for centuries and respect many of your achievements. However, your expansion has brought you into contact with our outer colonies, and we cannot allow that expansion to continue unchecked. So you threaten us with overwhelming force to ensure our compliance. We demonstrate our capabilities to avoid the need for force," Shin corrected. "Your Imperial Majesty, you have a choice to make. You can work with us to create a sustainable galactic civilization that benefits all species, or you can resist and face the consequences of that resistance." Princess Lixandra stepped forward before her father could respond. "Fleet Admiral Shin, if my father agrees to your proposals, what guarantees can you offer regarding the Empire's continued existence and autonomy?" Shin turned his attention to the princess with obvious approval. "Your Highness, we have no interest in dismantling the Empire's governmental structure or cultural identity. Our concern is with expansion patterns and treatment of subject species. Imperial territory and sovereignty would remain intact under human oversight." "What does oversight mean in practical terms?" she pressed. "Human advisors would be assigned to key governmental and military positions. Imperial expansion would require human approval. Treatment of conquered species would be subject to human ethical standards, but day-to-day governance would remain in Imperial hands. Emperor Vexthul listened to the exchange with growing realization that his daughter understood the situation better than he did. The humans were offering a form of protected autonomy rather than outright conquest, but his pride rebelled against the idea of accepting any form of subservient status. "And if we refuse your generous offer?" he asked sarcastically. Admiral Shin's expression grew sad but resolute. "Then we will do what is necessary to protect the civilizations that would otherwise fall under Imperial expansion. Your empire would be contained within its current borders and prevented from further conquest. Your military capabilities would be neutralized, and your governmental structure would be replaced with something more acceptable to human standards." The threat was delivered quietly and without drama, but its implications were clear. The humans possessed the power to end the empire completely, and they would use that power if necessary. Dr. Young-Soo Hwang, the human sociologist who had been working with Imperial transition teams, joined the conversation with detailed proposals for implementing the new arrangement. His plans were comprehensive and surprisingly respectful of Imperial culture and traditions. The transition process would take approximately 20 years, he explained. Imperial officers would work alongside human advisors to learn new administrative techniques. Advanced human technology would be gradually introduced to improve quality of life for all Imperial citizens. Most importantly, conquered species would be given opportunities for increased autonomy and self-governance. Princess Lixandra studied the transition plans with obvious interest. "Dr. Huang, what role would Imperial leadership play in this new arrangement?" "Essential roles, Your Highness. We need partners who understand galactic civilization and can help implement changes effectively. The Empire's administrative experience and cultural knowledge are invaluable resources that we have no desire to waste." As the discussions continued, Emperor Vexthul found himself facing the most difficult decision of his reign. Everything in his nature rebelled against accepting a subordinate position, but his rational mind recognized that resistance would lead to the complete destruction of everything his ancestors had built. Finally, he spoke. "Fleet Admiral Shin, if I accept your proposals, what assurance do I have that humanity will honor its commitments? What prevents you from simply eliminating Imperial leadership once you have achieved your objectives?" Emperor Vexthul, "We have been observing your empire for over 2,000 years. If we wanted to eliminate Imperial leadership, we could have done so at any time without the need for elaborate deception. Our goal is sustainable galactic civilization, not conquest for its own sake." The Emperor looked at his daughter and saw hope in her eyes for the first time in years. He thought about the reports from his economic advisors warning of resource depletion and administrative breakdown. He considered the military assessments that showed Imperial expansion had slowed to a crawl due to logistical limitations. Perhaps the humans were right. Perhaps the Empire had grown beyond its ability to govern effectively, and outside assistance was necessary for survival. "Very well," he said finally. "I accept your proposals, with the understanding that Imperial sovereignty and cultural identity will be preserved." "Agreed, Your Imperial Majesty." As the formal negotiations began, Princess Lixandra volunteered to serve as the primary liaison between human advisors and Imperial leadership. Her enthusiasm for the new arrangement became a symbol of hope for younger generations throughout the Empire. Over the following months, the galaxy began to change in ways that few could have imagined. Human technology started solving problems that had plagued Imperial civilization for centuries. Species that had been conquered and oppressed for generations found themselves with new rights and opportunities for self-governance. Admiral Lee remained aboard the Tuguk as humanity's primary diplomatic representative, working closely with Imperial leadership to implement the transition. His patient approach and genuine respect for Imperial achievements helped ease the psychological adjustment that such massive changes required. 6 months after first contact, Emperor Vexthul stood on the observation deck of his palace and looked out at a galaxy